This video is for tutors, and it's to show how you would go about the process of grading students' activities as part of the system. Now, the first thing to note is in the top right corner of the course, there is a thing called completion progress. Now, this bar here, as the students complete their work, these items will switch from blue to green. And once every single item has gone green, that means that the student has completed everything that's required for the course. That's the key to this whole process. We'll come back to that later. So we're going to go into Unit 1 in this case, and we're going to go to the Unit 1 knowledge questions. So we just click on the link, and we can see here there's a grading summary. There's been one participant so far, no drafts, one has been submitted, and then one needs grading. If you have multiple groups, you might have a group filter appearing as well, and you'd click on that to choose the group that you want to look at. We're then going to view all submissions. Now what it will do is it will give you a list of all of your students in this table. Now it's not the most attractive interface, and you can, for example, improve things. If you don't want to see the email address, you can just click on the little minus sign, and it will just get rid of the columns that you don't need. Now there's various different ways in which you could go about the process, but basically for each student there should be a link to the file or files that they've uploaded. So you'd click on them to download them, and then what we need to do is we need to grade. So I'm going to go into my first student and I'm going to click on the grade button. Now the interface, what it tries to do is it tries to generate a PDF file on the left of their submission. Now it doesn't always work, and in this case it's not going to work, so we're going to ignore that part. What we need is the bit on the right hand side. Now because it's a little bit squashed, if I go to the bottom right corner, I've got three icons which will change the layout. Now the left hand of those three icons will get rid of the bit on the left that doesn't work anyway, and it will just show me the grading sheet. So at the top I've got the student's name. I've got the link to the file if I need to download it from here. We then have a grade, and it's got a drop down box slightly to the right, and there are three options: no grade, pass, or refer. And then under that we have a list of the criteria that this covers. Now if you've gone through and you've looked at their work and you think that their work has met every single criteria, what you can do is simply switch this to pass. Now what that will do is it will mean that the overall piece of work has been passed, and therefore it is assumed that they've achieved all the criteria. If they've achieved some criteria but not all, what we would do is we would refer the work, and then we have to go through each of the criteria in turn and specify which ones are pass and which ones have not been passed. And if it's not been assessed, you'd leave it as no outcome. So you would just go through and do that for each of the criteria. Now the code for the criteria, just to let you know, the first two digits represents the unit, and then the last bit is the actual criteria number. So this is unit 1, and then it's criteria 1.1. Unit 1, criteria 1.02. As you go through, you'll find out, for example, here, that this particular activity, although it's based in the Unit 1 section, it also covers some of the criteria in Unit 3, Unit 4, and Unit 5. So if you've referred the work, you make sure that's switched to refer. What will happen then is it will allow the student to resubmit their work because they haven't passed. If you think that they've passed everything and you switch it to pass, it will then mean that they cannot resubmit because they've passed, they don't need to, and it will also show in their progress bar that little blue icon will change to green to show that they've completed it. Now when you get to the bottom, you can just click on Save Changes. You'll notice there's a little tick box that says Notify Students. If that is ticked, then it will actually fire an email off to the student to say that their work has been marked, and it will include a link to it, so they can just go into the email, follow the link, and it takes them in. Now, if you're doing a whole group of students, at the top here, you can then use your arrow buttons to go from one student to the next. So it saves you having to keep going back out and coming back in. You just start at the top of the list, work your way down, and then you can just click on the button, go to the next one, and the next one, etc. In this case, I've only got one student, so I haven't got anything to show with that one. So once you're done, you click on Save Changes. We click on OK. Now to get back to the course, we actually just click on the back arrow and it should take us back to where we were. And if I click at the breadcrumb trail at the top, and I'm going to click on Level 2 Activity Leadership, that will take me back to the course page properly. Now in the completion progress, if I click on Overview of Students, what we should see is that test student has now got green on their bar because they have passed that part of the course. That worksheet has been passed. So that's what that means. If you think you've made a mistake, then all you have to do is you go back into the activity, you view all submissions, you find the student that you need, you go back to grade, and then you just change the grade to whatever you want. So if you need to put it back to refer, you can do that, save changes, and now it's shown as a refer for that student. So that's the mechanism for grading the student's work. The other thing that you can do is at the bottom, you have a box where you can give some feedback comments. So if you need to say, oh yeah, you've done most of the work, but where you did this, you haven't quite gone into enough detail, you can provide that information in this feedback comments box. You can also attach files. So if you've actually marked their work, let's say it's a session plan and you've actually sort of marked it in pen, you could take a photograph of it and then you could upload that as a file as a form of feedback. Most browsers you'll be able to drag and drop into this area, or you can click on this white box. If you've got a browser that doesn't allow it, you then upload a file, you would choose a file, you locate the file on your computer and then upload it, and that will attach the file into here. Some of the activities are set up where it is not expected that the students will submit anything, but you as the tutor will still use the same mechanism for marking their work, so where it's been like an observation, and you can also give feedback. So you can actually attach files, the marked work, you can attach it back to them even if they haven't submitted their work up front. And then again, once you're done, we click on the back arrow and it takes us back to where we were. And then the breadcrumb trail at the top will take us to the name of the course, in this case L2 Activity Leadership, and we come back to here.